Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on how to be successful as a remote product manager. So just a little bit of intro about myself. My name is Richa Gujarati, and I am a product manager who's been in the healthcare and technology space for over 10 plus years now, working in various aspects of product management for quite some time. And I'm really excited to share with you guys today about what are the tools and techniques to be successful as a remote PM. So this may not be a surprise to anyone, but now that we have all gotten used to working in this remote setting through, unfortunately, the COVID days, I think one of the realization that has come through is remote work is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, a recent McKinsey and BCG survey suggests that as many as 40% of the employee base in the United States will continue remote work even after the pandemic is over and offices are open for people to start going back in and work within offices. And one thing that was a surprise to me is remote work is not new. If anything, there has been a growing trend towards more and more remote work. And in the last 12 years, the percentage of employees that have been working in a remote setting has grown as much as by 159%. Well, remote work, while really great with all its flexibility, the ability to take nap breaks, lunch breaks, breakfast breaks, and never having to commute into office, does come with a lot of its challenges, and particularly as a product manager whose key job is setting the right vision for the product, facilitating various cross-functional and department level alignment, communicating with all these individual stakeholders. Remote work can be challenging, especially if your teams are split globally across varying time zones. So let's talk a little bit through what are the key challenges, and then what are the tools and techniques available to sort of get over these hurdles. Well, first of all, varying time zones. If anyone who has worked in global teams or global setting, different time zones can make it really difficult for everyone to sync and collaborate effectively. Someone like myself who has worked on the West Coast and part of global teams for over 10 years, I know scheduling meetings that fits everyone's schedule is almost next to impossible and quite the nightmare. And this inability to coordinate across various time zones can come with a lot of massive bad ramifications. So it can lead to lack of coordination, ineffectiveness in getting the job done, and misalignment can be extremely, extremely costly as far as the actual product output is concerned. The next one, lack of in-person interaction can really drive ineffective communication. No more coffee breaks, no more water cooler side chat can result in misalignment across common priorities, on goals, and really, what are we trying to achieve at the end of the day? Everyone coming in and who's working and contributing towards a product development goal can have their own notion and ideas, and this inability to interact in person, to relay your concerns, get your questions answered, can drive a lot of ineffectiveness, lack of productivity, and ultimately could severely impact the ability to get a quality product out in the right time, and can make working on new products particularly all that more challenging and ineffective. And lastly, perhaps the least obvious of them all, especially if you're hiring new teammates or there are new teammates who are joining from other products, can be this assessing team fit. It can be really challenging, especially if someone is new who doesn't necessarily buy into the long-term vision of and the goal of the product, to get them to align to the same set of goals and visions. And getting across this hurdle in particular can be challenging. But I have the right technique and tools to sort of help you come across that. Okay, so from problem to solutions, which is what every great PM does, right? So what are the tools that can help you be an effective remote PM? Well, first of all, as I talked about varying time zones, is scheduling flexibility. This one is the most critical tool to leverage, especially if you work in a global team that's located around different time zones. One of the ways that I have leveraged schedule flexibility residing in a global headquarters was to rotate my schedule around. So every Monday, we would start our day at 6 a.m. and end the day slightly earlier to overlap with our European teams as much as possible. And every Wednesday, we would extend our calendars out to 7 or 8 p.m. to ensure maximum overlap with the teams based in Asia and Australia and New Zealand. Now, the ability to keep our schedules flexible yet consistent really allowed us to sync up with the teams across these multiple geographies. And by keeping it consistent every week, the team in these locations also knew that in advance, what are the things they should prep for, given that they knew there was a meeting coming, what issues to raise, giving them a forum to sound all their ideas and opinions, and really ensuring the maximum amount of collaboration. The next tool to have in your chest of toolbox is communication. I can't emphasize this enough. Your job as a product manager is to ensure that you fulfill the requirements of each department as effectively as possible. And since you as a PM are often the key facilitator across these various cross-functional groups, you have to be able to synchronize everyone's wants and needs, prioritize what needs to get done, and then communicate that back across the various departments and teams effectively. So communicate. It's the most effective toolbox to have, whether you're working as a remote PM or in person, but particularly so if you are a remote PM. Along with communication, I also highly encourage effective utilization of collaboration tools. So any sort of shared drive, shared documents, Dropbox, Box, any other collaboration tools, Quip, those are your best friends to ensure everyone has full visibility and transparency into documents that may be changing, plans that may be changing, and particularly so if your teams are located across various geographies, it's particularly helpful if they can refer back to them live and see what may have changed or gotten updated while they were sleeping and you were working. Now, this one is kind of an odd one, and I recognize that, but again, I found it to be very, very, very effective. And this comes in particularly handy if you want to foster and facilitate good communication. This opportunity to break bread together. Schedule happy hour, again, on that rotating schedule. Schedule opportunity to eat breakfast together, even if it's virtually. This opportunity to sort of see each other real time, doing something that's not work related can really help foster bonds between the various team members, but can also create an environment of comfort and familiarity. That can come in particularly handy when any issues arise. This will ensure that teams are comfortable talking to each other and are not afraid to reach out and escalate any issue, especially if timely escalation can break or make the problem and situation. Encourage questions. Always focus on the why, and talk to your teams about why you are building something or working on something. That can go a long way in ensuring that team members feel accountable and motivated towards a cause or the mission, towards what you are working towards. This will really help in gaining alignment across a common vision, especially when you can't see or meet each other face to face and you can't raise problems in real time. The opportunity to be transparent, the opportunity for people to ask questions, get all their questions answered, and raise concern, especially if they have any, really help, especially if you're focusing on the why and why you're building something, to ensure that any of the challenges you may come across as a remote PM are sort of taken care for and accounted for. The last one show appreciation. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand from my perspective with delegating responsibilities, making sure your teams feel empowered and sort of accountable to take charge, to make decisions. This, along with being able to focus on the why, can really help ensure that as a remote team, you are extremely, extremely effective, because when people feel empowered to make decisions, that ensures that they'll make the right decisions for the product, especially if they know the why. They know the reason why you're working towards something. So finding small ways to show appreciation, giving your team some level of autonomy and accountability can really help in ensuring great collaboration and ensuring a productive team that is working towards a common goal. The last one, sort of the obvious one, aligning on the goal. Earlier I talked about why creating an open forum, giving your team the space and opportunity to ask all the questions and focusing on the why is so critical. Well, the why is also what helps you align on this common goal and vision. It allows you to determine timelines, expectations, and also prioritize feature sets, product ideas. It offers a ton of clarity in terms of where you should focus, how you should prioritize, and it particularly true for a remote PM, is having a good understanding of what priorities your team are driving towards, and making sure everyone is aligned on that can be extremely, extremely critical in ensuring a successful and timely product development and product launch. Great. Now that we have learned so much about all the wonderful tools and techniques that I keep in my trust box as a remote PM, let's talk through some of the examples of how do you leverage these tools across the various aspects and stages of a product lifecycle. So let's talk about how do you leverage some of these tools to brainstorm effectively, especially if you're coming up with new product concepts. Everyone knows while PM or product managers are responsible for coming up with new product ideas, driving the product roadmap, it's almost next to impossible to do so without the collaboration and effort of the entire team, especially the team who has been thinking about the new product concepts, who may have already launched something and is thinking about how to iterate on those. That can be tremendously, tremendously helpful. So one of the couple of tools that I leverage, especially when it comes to brainstorming, is obviously scheduling flexibility goes without a doubt, but then leveraging communication and collaboration tools really, really heavily. We typically would create this dump PowerPoint document to talk through all sorts of new ideas and concepts that we're thinking through, that everyone in the team has access to it, has opportunity to comment, provide feedback. But then we would also schedule multiple discussion sessions, some when we're engaging and interacting in a very relaxed environment, and some that are scheduled as more sort of formal discussion sessions when all you're doing is really working on tightening the narrative, tightening the concept. And then one of the key things that a product manager can do during that process when you're coming up with a new concept is be that facilitator. Leverage your superb communication and soft skills to ask the right questions, continuing to focus on the why, and guiding the team through this hallmark of a new idea, a new concept can be extremely effective. From the brainstorming session, which is what I refer to as diverging, to honing in on a new product concept. And this is where two tools, focus on the why, align on a common goal and vision, come in really, really handy. You continue to focus on the why to figure out what are you actually trying to solve for your customers? What user needs are you actually trying to address? And what problems are you helping your customers solve? That can really help in going from diverging with a ton of different new product concepts to aligning on one new product concept or one new product idea that you guys are going to pursue. What is the common goal of the team? What is the team trying to do and achieve together in alignment can also be a good thing to sort of address and align on early on in order for you to converge to a new product concept. And then the last piece is iterating on a product. How do you leverage some of these tools when you're already halfway through a product development lifecycle and you're trying to understand, where do we go from here? What are the changes we want to make? How do we solve a bug? All the tools that I talked about come in extremely handy here. Keeping your schedule flexible yet consistent can go a long way in making sure that the teams feel comfortable reaching out to you, have a time dedicated and set aside, knowing when they can escalate issues and ideas out to you. Making sure your team has a good sense of community, a good sense of culture, and feel comfortable talking to each other, reaching out to each other, raising problems can be particularly helpful, especially as you're iterating on a product or going into problem solving mode. And then lastly, can't emphasize this enough, keeping your eye on the common vision and common goal, and always having that why in the background can be extremely effective, especially as a remote PM, as you're navigating sort of the lanes of product development and are midway through a product development process. So those are just some examples of how you can leverage these tools effectively to at various stages in your product development cycle to tackle various challenges that you may come across. I would love to hear from all of you in terms of like, what are the challenges that you come across when developing a product, when coming up with a new concept, and what are some of the other tools that you have leveraged in the past to get over those hurdles. Thank you very much. This was a great pleasure and look forward to hearing from all of you.